right, we are live. What's up, everybody? What's up, Facebook? What's up, friends? What's up, group owners? Today we have a very special session for you on one of our incredible members, Lenita, who has crushed through the $100,000 mark in her Facebook group completely from scratch. And that is what we are here to celebrate and break down today. So I am honestly so excited. Lost a little bit of sleep waiting for today. So welcome to everybody joining the call. Everybody from our Profitable Group Academy members sitting in on the Zoom call. Welcome. What's up to everyone there all across Australia, US, Costa Rica. We've got people from every corner of the continent. Lenita is with us. I'll be having her hop on in just a sec. Welcome to all of our group owners, coaches, and course creators inside Facebook Group Secrets, or everybody viewing from Facebook or anywhere on the line. It's awesome to have you with us today. Without further ado, I need to introduce my friend Lenita. We've been hanging out now for, from what I can gather, about 15 months. I'll let her sort of expand upon the story. And it's been lots of fun, lots of learnings. She's been one of our most active Profitable Group Academy members over the last 12, 15 months. And the proof is in the pudding. I was chatting with Lanita just this week when she uncovered that she'd hit $100,000 unbeknowingly. So without further ado, everyone on Zoom, everyone on Facebook, give it up for my friend and our Profitable Group Academy, a member, Lenita. Lenita, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually incredibly impressed you pronounced my last name correctly. That doesn't happen often. So kudos, special bonus points for that. It's really good to be here. I'm still buzzing. As you just said, we crossed 100K, and I get so caught up with, what's that next milestone? What do I need to do next? And sometimes we just need to sit down and work the numbers and actually celebrate our growth as well. So I'm excited to unpack the journey. And I've been building this from scratch in a very baby niche, never done before. So I'd love to, unpack that for you guys.
So cool. Crazy. Can you, I want to start from the beginning, but I also want to start from our conversation on like Monday or so. We had you booked in for our hot seat this week. It wasn't a surprise, and we were just jamming as to what the journey's been like and sort of what some of the milestones have been. And can you just unpack like how that conversation went and what you discovered on your end and how that came about?
Yeah, definitely. I think really talking about how much has happened, especially within the last 30 days. The authority, the growth in my own authority, and also just my self-belief as that leader in the niche has grown substantially. And, my Facebook group hitting 1,000 members, that was kind of like what had sparked the conversation as well. Hitting 1,000 members in a niche where often gets a lot of objections or criticism. And I thought to myself, geez, like there's actually a massive need for this. 1,000 people following my lead. I don't take that lightly. There's a lot of responsibility that is attached to that as well. But yeah, I just think the authority stance has been a big shift, and really just stepping into that and owning that, and really just being okay with, hey, like someone has to be led. So why should they not be led by me? I will just have to assume that role in the market. And that's where it takes me, to today.
Love it. And yeah, authority, you mentioned that a long time ago. When I first grabbed a testimonial from you when you hit $10,000 in your business through Facebook groups, and authority, I can still hear it in my ears. That was a very key, subject matter to you getting in and succeeding here. When we chatted on Monday though, you said, look, I've generated $70,000 for my Facebook group. And I was like, that is awesome. And I asked you the question, when is it projected that you'll hit 100K? And you came back a couple minutes later. Can you tell me what happened there in those couple of minutes that brought your answer back at $100,000?
Yeah, I thought to myself, I looked at the numbers. I actually went back and actually looked at the numbers, and I thought, okay, well, that's cash banked. So I haven't actually calculated my sales. And over the biggest growth that I've experienced in my business has actually been over the last 2 to 3 months. So I didn't actually factor in the sales that I had actually made over, especially the last 30 days. And so what has been somewhat of a slow burn has finally started to grow substantially, like very quickly in the short term. And so, I just didn't factor in the sales that I had made over the last few weeks in my business. And I thought to myself, oh no, I need to tell Ryan I actually did cross 100K. And a lot of it has been through the authority and the confidence through the Facebook group, which is like, a big factor in the growth of the business too.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. So freaking cool. Well, let's pull back things, back to the start. We connected in 2019 in November, I believe. You joined us in the program back then. Can you remember exactly where you were when we first connected?
Yeah, I do remember this. So it was the transitioning from, being a coach for teenagers, specifically a teen coach. I had really succeeded in that market. And so I was transitioning into training teen coaches. So it's very much at the beginning stages of stepping into the trainers model. And I didn't have a Facebook. I think I had a Facebook group, but it was dead. Nothing was going on in there. I was not confident on how to run it. And so I came across you, the good old Facebook marketing, the good old friend farming and everything like that. And I came across you and instantly I just really vibed off your approach and just really getting clear on what a Facebook group is and the fact that you could be running a group and actually having fun with it too, and also monetizing. So I thought, you know what, I'm one of the first.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm one of the first in the market to do this. I need to step into building the group very quickly early on. So yeah, in terms of like the business coaching or the trainers model, I joined you at the very beginning stages of stepping into that model myself.
Yeah, because I think you'd launched your group maybe a few months prior to that. You'd had your group set up. So I didn't help you kick it off. I didn't help you launch it or get your first members in there. So it was already there in the midst when you were looking to take things next level, right?
Yeah, totally. It was somewhat messy. Like I knew I wanted to just hang out a little bit more with, the people in my market. I saw people doing it online. So, the whole ego, oh, I can do this on my own kind of thing, until you realize you can't do it on your own. You need to step out and get out of your own way. So I think I just, look through just existing connections and just inviting people into the group, but there was no strategy or sequence behind that. And that's why it took me a long time to really, monetize, until of course you helped me with that strategy on, what are you actually doing with your members? So they were just hanging out.
Right.
With no strategy on how to actually take them through a funnel and monetize and get clients.
Totally. And that's cool for people watching. Like if you've got a group of people just hanging out in there, that's totally cool. To gather your people, to gather your audience is stage one in the process. And you can take as long or as little as you want to go to stage 2 and 3, which is, engaging real conversation, adding value, and obviously bringing people into your world, into your business so that you can serve them at your highest level. You briefly touched on it, but I want to ask you so that you can let everybody know who it is specifically that you help and how that works. Because from what I understand, your niche is not an easy one to crack.
Yeah, I love this question too, because you're right. It's probably one of the hardest niches. So I train teen coaches, and basically a teen coach is a coach where our clients are the teenagers. So we are life coaches for kids. And I help them, learn the skills and the art of how to work with teenagers and also monetize their expertise in a coaching business. And so it's very tricky because although our client is the teenager, our buyers are the parents. So we're working with two people in the funnel too. So at this stage, I train the teen coaches on how to build their business.
So I can imagine there's difficulties there because one of my mentors is in the education space, taking high school students and helping them find their life purpose, after high school, right? And so he deals with the same student and the parent. So you ultimately, is it correct that you have to almost have two marketing strategies out there in the marketplace to speak to the parent and also to the student or the teenager? Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of our marketing will be centered heavily for the parents, but we also need to be factoring in how can we be handling the objections for the teenagers, because we're not really seeing them first when we come into that conversation or that consult. So realistically, we just help the parent, empower the parent through the marketing to just be the parent and make the decision to invest in their child's personal development. But often at times, of course, teenagers are a hard audience to crack. So we need to be making sure we're enrolling them in that sales process as well.
Huge. So I hope everybody listening is sort of processing this, because it's not just focusing on your one avatar or your one ideal customer. You're splitting down the pathway and always factoring in how is one responding to the other? How is one objecting or having conversations at home or in their car privately that you can't be a part of? It's not just like a husband, wife, or spouse that have objections. It's parent and child, very different ballpark. And that's what makes this conversation so special, that you've broken into a tough market. So everyone out there thinking like, I've got a tough marketplace, it goes to show that it can be done, especially that you were finding that you were holding this space in a brand new area. Why is this sort of an untouched area that you broke into a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I love this question. There's so many limitations and limiting beliefs around working with children and how we have to stick to the traditional systems. So for me specifically, coming from a high school teaching background, it's a matter of, the conflict of interest, or you can't work with children outside of your job. And that's why it's a very untouched market, because a lot of people are too scared to leave the traditional system and go out on their own. So if anything, I just had the most courage and to take the most risk and do it unapologetically with the expectation, hey, I'm going to receive a lot of criticism. Until this day, we still do receive a lot of judgment and criticism, and hey, is that allowed, and what's the legalities around working with children? And so we do have to be mindful of that too. But I think when it came down to stepping out and actually doing it, I just really understood where I did not want to be as a teacher or as an educator. And I just took the risk on moving more towards where I wanted to be and just figuring out the how as I went. And, to my surprise, we started attracting a like-minded tribe from like all across the world of educators who understood the language and like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do this. I just didn't know that it was actually possible.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That you just knew what you didn't want, and so you were going to run the other way. Super powerful. That was my story as well. So totally resonate, and I'm sure a ton of people are resonating with you as well. What was it like when we first connected? What was business like in those early days? And I guess what was the challenges you were facing at that point?
Yeah, the early days was interesting. It was a lot of trial and error. The model fell into my lap spontaneously. I didn't go in with the intention to train the coaches. I just had people asking me how I actually did it. And then I thought to myself, well, okay, this is interesting. People are asking me for me to teach them. I know there's business coaches out there, so why can't I just, once again, create a new niche in the business space? So very early days, trial and error. I was just basically having, one-to-one clients at that stage, really just taking my time to perfect the product. Now, when I say product, I actually didn't have a product. I really just listened to what my clients wanted and trusted that I had enough credibility and knowledge in the space to give them what they were wanting, as long as I, were confident with just being that one step ahead. So I was always that one step ahead of my clients and really teaching them what they needed. I think I just didn't have.
Did that come from a teaching background to be one step ahead of the client or the student in this case, or did that come from somewhere else?
In terms of the coaches?
No, yeah, you just mentioned like, I just wanted to make sure I was just always one step ahead. And I feel like that may have been a teaching background thing, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, totally. To help them, I always just wanted to make sure I was teaching them what I had already achieved. So when they were wanting to make their first $1,000, for example, I had already made, a minimum certain amount in my business. I thought, okay, I can definitely confident to teach them that. So I was very mindful of not falling into the space of just being a good marketer. I had to be a very good coach first, before I could monetize and also teach my clients on how to monetize. In addition to that, I had, 10 years experience teaching in schools. So often when we start coaching or tap into a new niche, we chase another piece of paper with our name on it, thinking we're credible. For me, I didn't do that. I didn't go to a coaching school to get certified and then say, hey, I'm a coach. I
Neither
used
did
my
I. Just for everyone else.
I used my 10 years of experience working with teenagers because I found that even though there were coaching schools out there, these coach trainers have never worked with teenagers in their life.
Wow.
And so I knew there was a gap in the space. I'm like, okay, well, you're a coach trainer, but show me, do you have teenage clients? So I thought, okay, once again, I'm going to assume that role and really unpack what I've been learning and build the academy for teen coaches. And that's what, that one step ahead. To be honest, I was really 10 steps ahead because I had my teaching background.
Totally.
But I really wanted to make sure, I was congruent in
Yeah.
teaching what I had already achieved.
Yeah, and testing the market as well. Absolutely. In regards to your group when you kicked that off, why did you think that seemed like a good idea when you did? Because obviously we weren't connected. I didn't say, hey, you need to start a group. Why did you think at the time it seemed like a good idea to kick off a group?
Yeah, a couple of things. I was craving community. I am someone that thrives off community and human connection, and that's a big thing we teach our clients. You need to be connecting on a human level. So I found that myself, it's quite a lonely journey when you're building something very new. And I knew that it was a human need of educators in our space. So that was number one. I really wanted to build a community. Number two, I needed somewhere to really connect with them more than just being on my Facebook profile, because I was mindful of people will come in and out of your Facebook profile, but how to really engage them, it has to be in a more intimate setting. And it just made sense that the Facebook group would be that next step, because my style and my personality, I vibe more off like the Facebook platform rather than LinkedIn or possibly Instagram.
I'm interested to ask you a few more things in regards to other socials.
Yeah. So that's probably why. And it just made sense. Hey, there's a group. Let's just park them in there.
Awesome. Tell me about the launch. You did it on your own. You launched it prior to joining us. What did that look like? Did you have a plan? Did you just do it overnight?
No plan. I'll be completely honest. I had no plan. I just saw other people doing it. And I thought, okay, well, I'm really good at when I put my mind to something, like I really want to just make sure that I'm watching people who are doing things right. And I always want to make sure when I'm investing in a program that I'm already invested mentally in the process. So I opened the group. I kind of just modeled what I was seeing. Now that's not necessarily enough, but it was just great to start. And then I just, there was no necessary plan when it came into that. In terms of strategy or even the naming of the group, it was like no strategy whatsoever.
So how did you grow it then? Because I can't recall where it was at when you first joined us, but I think there was a couple of hundred members maybe in there, or maybe there wasn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I just reached out to my existing network and I just said, hey, come hang out with us. We can talk, all things teenagers, coaching, working in schools. So at first it was kind of like a discussion forum,
right?
Because I didn't have like the monetary like funnel behind the scenes. So I just reached out to, I have a great network. So I just reached out to everyone, say, hey, let's come here and hang out and just have discussions around that.
Cool. So what did the network look like? Did you have any email list? Was there an Instagram following? Was it Facebook friends? Did you have?
A bit of both. So my Facebook following, definitely, and also my Instagram following.
Page or profile? Did you have just
all personal profile. All personal profile. I didn't even waste time on in the beginning, I thought business page was the way to go until I realized the organic reach was horrible. So I just tapped into my friends list and my Instagram following. And the one thing that I actually did very well in the beginning was being intentional with who hangs out in my group.
Nice.
So I just didn't invite everyone. I was very selective with, are you an educator? Do you have a minimum experience with teenagers? Is your heart in the right place? So I had conversations with people prior to just like inviting them into my group. And that's been a big non-negotiable since. So that's probably been the biggest win from day one, being intentional with who hangs out in there.
Cool. So a big one that we, stress is quality over quantity. So are you saying you're more than happy to turn away more people to your group than let in as long as they're the right people?
Totally. 110%. You know, we have very high standards with even our free trainings. We want to make sure we have human conversations.
Mhm.
And if people tend to ghost us, like we'll hold them accountable in the chat. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, we're here for human connection. And we want to make sure if I put you in front of teenagers, I want to make sure your heart is in the right place. So it takes longer. Our sequence is a little bit longer than what other people would teach us. But it works incredibly well once they're actually a client of ours.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
You've touched on it a couple of times, human connection. I think
Mm.
more than ever on, what are we, April 23rd, 2021. For some people watching, it's April 22nd still. The future is bright, never fear. But human connection right now more than ever, you mentioned it a few times, is so, so crucial. And I think in a space where online marketing is at its highest, where online coaching is at its widest, the connection level has really lost touch, where Zoom calls are so frequent that we don't get face to face with people. So may as well just blast messages and lives and things out there. How do we improve on that human touch? Which we've been talking about that quite a lot inside the PGA Academy at the moment. How do we improve those personal touches to the people that we're serving and the clients as well? So maybe what are some things in regards to that human connection that you've strategically put in place, or even are just in the front of your mind when connecting with people?
Yeah, it's, you know, whether it serves us or not, I know we'll probably have to tweak it when we come to scale a little bit more, but I actually make it incredibly hard for people to get on a phone call with me because I'm constantly qualifying them with how they interact online. And often people come to just maybe use and abuse the platform that you've been building for years. So if they just want free stuff, no worries, all good. But I just really want to have a conversation with you about why you want to work with teenagers. So that's one strategy. And another one is qualifying them. So, you know, in terms of like a free challenge, it's so easy to do a free challenge. It's free. You don't have to charge them. Anyone can come in and out. But I purposely get them to fill out application forms.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once again, it's more manual work. It takes longer, but I'm making it harder for them because I somewhat want to disqualify them before they get into a free program. So by the time I pitch, they're somewhat already qualified because they're selling themselves to the academy. So it's not the sexy thing to do. It's not what other coaches will tell you to do, but I personally do that. In addition to that, I always share my personal story online. Like every 3 to 4 months, I do a vulnerable post. I do a before and after photo of me, you know, when I was 12 years of age, or me with my awkward teenage years, because that's the message that I'm putting out online for the parents. And it's very, very like deep, vulnerable stuff. So it really connects to the hearts of a lot of parents or a lot of young adults that had those similar stories as teenagers. And it's different. You know, it's that vulnerability that really connects to your audience. Because often at times they want strategy, but realistically what they're really needing is that personal growth. And so you need to lead the way and really hold that space for them online.
Totally. Well, that's how we relate to people, right? If our story aligns in some way with somebody else, we are more inclined to like that person. And we don't know why, but that's the subconscious.
Yeah.
So out of those three, you've just said you actually make it hard for people to get on the phone with you. So if everyone's taking notes, make it harder for people to get on the phone with you. Okay, make them want the thing, because right now in the marketplace, free trainings are galore. You know, jump on a call with me is like out there every single day of the week. So when you make someone actually want and desire something, it creates a much stronger bond to actually fulfilling on the desire. So make it harder to get on the phone, qualify harder for free challenges, get people to fill out application forms. So a little bit more in the process before getting access to the thing. And then vulnerability, massive. Okay, being vulnerable online and seeing how that connects your audience. Super cool in terms of.
I'm also, and I'd love to add this too, I'm very transparent about the marketing, like the work we do. And I somewhat try to turn off my prospects. Okay. I try to scare them to some extent, because working with children is very sensitive, and it's not easy. And people think, oh, you're just hanging out with kids. Like, how hard can it be? But because it's a
It's
sensitive
hard,
industry,
people. It is hard. I wanted to be a teacher
right.
at one stage. It is damn hard to hang out with kids and to keep them all in alignment.
Yeah, they're tough work. They're tough work. So I'm very, I market, the average. I market the challenges. I market the transparency with parent objections. And so I try to be completely honest instead of trying to sell and market the sexy stuff. Because when people say, hey, can I make 10K in a month? Although that's very realistic, I try to stay away from making those promises because unfortunately, not every adult is actually qualified and credible enough to work with a teenager. So my marketing is very much on the other side. Once again, I try to turn them off. So if they're still hanging around, they are clinging onto my transparency and my honesty and my vibe as an educator, because I'm somewhat unconventional too.
So good. Bring on the unconvention.
Yeah. So then that's how you attract the like-minded tribe and you get the right people that bounce off you and serve the culture that you're building in your program too.
So good. So many truth bombs right here. We've been on the topic, or we started on the topic of sort of growth. You just crossed 1,000 members in your group, and that is no small feat. And people look at groups that are like 10,000 or 100,000. We've got one of our members who has 1.8 million people in her group, right? 1,000 people is life-changing. Tell me about, like, you've had some serious acceleration in the last few months in your group. Tell us about that. What's been involved? What have you just put the foot down on and doubled down on?
Yeah, I love this. So there's a few things that's involved. Number one, the Facebook group name. I changed it 3 times before I figured out what the actual name was. So being, it's called Thriving Teen Coaches. So my clients are teen coaches. So it makes sense to have teen coaches in the name. So when they search teen coach online, I'm one of the first to pop up. So it has to be very, very much laser focused to what people aspire to be as your client. And so I had Thriving Teen Coaches as the name. So the second I actually changed the name, I started getting more requests.
Epic.
Because people were starting to search teen coaching. The description as well, like having like consistent messaging around your niche. And so of course, understanding who your niche and who your client avatar is. So that's number one. Number two, my non-negotiable is everyone must be inside my Facebook group prior to any type of engagement. Mm-hmm. So my bios, all of my bios have my group link. And on the front end, it's that first call to action, come and hang out with us. When I'm speaking on stages or podcasts, I never pitch a call. I never pitch, hey, download this free thing. I always pitch, come and hang out with us in our community, because people tend to pull more from that. So my bios, my call to actions, when I'm getting out there into the community, that's how people are finding me.
So good.
In addition to that, like a bit of hustle, a bit of manual work. Like I have a lot of conversations with people on the daily. And so that first point of contact in the DM is come and join my group. Even if they ask about my program, my first question will be, awesome. In the meantime, are you a member of our free Facebook group? And if not, here's the link, come and hang out with us here. Awesome. So it's always that first point of contact. What I've been doing recently now, the friend farming and the organic strategy works incredibly well. Now, what usually happens is I will now become capped and I'll reach a stage where either I can't do that or I need someone else to take on that role. So we're looking at other team members to just use the same strategy, but let's 10x that. Perfect. And don't fix what's not broken. Just try to leverage and bring on other people and scale that. We try to stay away from the automation strategies. We need to figure out what that's going to look like for us, but we really just want to make sure we're using the strategy that works. Let's just bring more people in the funnel to do that for us.
Also, don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah. So that's how I think last week this week alone, we had 50 new members coming in to the group, and we're very specific with where we're targeting them. So we're looking at, other groups, other audiences, but they're laser focused to the niche. So they're people who work with teenagers, educators, coaches themselves. We don't just go to just life coaches in general. We go to coaches who work with kids. Perfect.
And are you targeting from other platforms as well? Instagram, Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Twitter?
A little bit, yeah. I didn't get too caught up with the whole Clubhouse, shenanigans. I am on there, but I'm very intentional with, which rooms I'm tapping into. But when I am on Instagram and Clubhouse, etc., once again, my call to action is to bring them back to me, because it's our moral obligation to be the shepherd, because there's too many sheep online, and often at times they're in the wrong groups. So when I've witnessed parents in Facebook groups, they're in a venting platform that's quite toxic. I don't know if you guys have been in parent groups, but they're like a whole different story. And so I know that I can best serve them better in my group because I have credibility and experience. So when it comes to the mindset shift on wherever you're going to play, make sure that you are herding them back to your group, because that's where they're going to get the best results. And that's where you can feed them into your program that will get them lifelong lasting change as well.
Oh, so good. So much gold there. I love that you've used the terminology of a shepherd and sheep, because there are not enough shepherds online. There are plenty of sheep, but there are also wolves in sheep's clothing.
Ooh.
Right now, more than ever. And I think everybody listening in right now can picture or think of a name where you're like, I don't trust this person, or something here is not right, or they just are pushing things upon me. Or maybe you're in the seat where you're like, I don't want to be a wolf in sheep's clothing or come across pushy or salesy or spammy or anything like that. So I love the terminology of a shepherd. Great analogy. And hey, I can tell you, I've been in plenty of parents' Facebook groups, and they are wild.
Yeah. It's great for market research, but I don't like to play too much in there, because they are, some people want advice and others don't, which is all good. But I just want to make sure, teen coaching is people still don't know what a teen coach is. So we're all about educating and empowering them first before we ever have that conversation on a sales call or anything like that.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
Hey, let's switch gears here to engagement. Mm-hmm. How do you gauge engagement within your group? Try saying that fast. How do you gauge engagement within your group? What's important to you with your members in there, and how they converse, respond, ask, share, etc.?
Yeah, great question. I think publicly, people love to talk more about the fun stuff and their wins rather than their challenges and pain points. So publicly, they'll rarely react to a pain point post, because often at times people don't want to acknowledge that they're struggling or that they're in pain. So when you put out call to action or you put out your engagement posts, make it light and funny and entertaining, because often at times that's why our clients or our prospects are online. They want to be entertained. So, fun, light questions, like being niche specific, is, what's one of the funniest comments you've received from teenagers? And we get hundreds of comments rolling in from there. So in terms of when I want comments coming in, I keep it light. Mm-hmm. But then I still be super vulnerable with my value posts, my teaching posts. But often at times people react privately when it comes to the pain points.
Yeah, interesting. And do you differ from posting publicly on your profile outside of your group vulnerably or value based versus inside your group? Is there a difference there as to how you speak and what you share?
A little bit. I still share the content, but the content's slightly different. So my written posts and like the prettier photos and all the polished stuff will go on my Facebook profile. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in my group, I reshare the exact same content, but I'll go live and say the same thing.
Interesting.
So they see me more, on a human level. They see me a little bit more casual. Because they're in a somewhat more intimate setting, I got to show up a little bit more intimately for them too, and I do that through live.
Totally. I love that you double up on the post and the live, therefore leveraging the content and hitting your audience with two different angles, which is a massive gold star. For everyone listening, hit your audience with multiple angles. Some people want to watch live video. Some people want to read a post. Okay, so really, really cool point there. What is the cadence of content look like within your group? Have you got structure, rhythm? Is it spontaneous? Is it planned? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I've got structure now thanks to you, because you've helped me with how to do it. But essentially I have structure with the openness to be spontaneous.
Cool.
So I always say, if something's on your heart, share it right there and then, because you're going to feel it the most and it's going to be transferred onto your audience. But essentially, when it comes to actual structure, Our welcome posts are now that new non-negotiable. Once a week, get out your welcome post with having the structure in there, and pulling, some conversations and leads from there. And then in addition to that, one engagement post a week and then one live training. So that tends to be working so far. And the number one outcome is just to generate conversations on that post and not go in with the expectation to get the DM, to get the consult. Because if you go in with that expectation, you're going to lose them. So just facilitate conversations. And yeah, they're our top 3 performing posts at this stage inside our group.
Fantastic. I love that you say at this stage. It's changing. Everything is changing.
Going to change. Yeah.
Before we hopped on this call, for everybody wondering that's not on the Zoom, we were trying to go live, and go live on Facebook wasn't as easy as it was yesterday because it's changed. All right. We have to be aware of what's happening in the market. Technology might change, like Facebook is changing in terms of their algorithm. Apple are killing off all of their tools to help us market via ads, etc. Things change. Okay, that's software and technology, but then things change in terms of marketing and strategy as well. So the market, as we know, is completely saturated and flooded, and things are reused and recycled everywhere we look. We have to be one step ahead of the game at all times. So I love that you've said at this stage. Tomorrow, next week, it might look different. You mentioned leads in there. Let's talk about lead flow. What does that look like? Or actually, what did it look like a couple of years ago, 2019, when you kicked the group off? What did lead flow look like? Where were you drawing from? And then we'll come up to 2021.
Yeah, leads in the beginning were coming from my personal profiles. So, there wasn't structure where I knew leads were coming in. They were coming just spontaneously. So people used to contact me just through the DMs, but they were my existing audience. Sure. So in the beginning, it worked. It was very much, see my content, let's have a DM, let's pull to a call. But once I exhausted my existing network, I wasn't getting those DMs anymore. So that's when the group started to evolve from that. But essentially, at the beginning of my Facebook group, it was a bit of a struggle because I didn't want to sound too salesy or sleazy or pitch in the group, because I told them we're here to hang out and have discussions. So I'll be totally honest, it wasn't really strong in the beginning, the lead flow. It was just a matter of like, if someone happened to send me a DM, that was kind of like where it happened. But I wasn't actively prompting those conversations in the group.
Sure. So relying on inbound at that stage because you didn't want to offend or have to apologize for being salesy or pushy in that space.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So what was the shift then? A few months after you launched, you joined us. What was the shift in those first few early months to get you?
Yeah. The little shifts around DM sequencing was a very big one. I always see it from two lenses. Like, one, you're pitching me and I saw how you were doing things. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. It's not salesy at all. And then 2, how you taught me the back end of that as well, and just tweaking the language. So every time someone would start reacting to my content, I started to shift that mindset. It's my moral obligation to send them a DM. If I don't send them a DM, they're just going to be hanging out there. And once again, if I don't herd them in here, they're going to go and follow someone else, and that person's not going to be the right person for them. Okay. So from the Facebook group, engagement to then facilitating a DM, that was the biggest shift in the beginning. And then just really, pulling them from there to the phone call. So the sequencing in itself was a big change.
Love that. Did you always book calls from the beginning?
Yes. It was something that was definitely, I've always been booking calls. But in the beginning, sometimes it was a bit of the sequence was broken because we got them on calls and they were too cold. Mm-hmm. So the Facebook group, the addition of the group in the prospect sequence has worked incredibly well, because now they're somewhat warm and quite hot before I get them on a call. Massive so changer. Big shift and big non-negotiable. So now the consults are so much more easier because they've been following me much longer.
Now, you've mentioned we a couple of times.
Yeah.
Was it a we in 2019, or did team come on board 2020? Like, has it, what's the case?
Yeah, all me in the beginning, right? You always all me in the beginning.
How long?
Because well, I started this back in 2015, like the transition from teaching to coaching. So it's been me for like the first 5-6 years.
Yep.
And and bringing in a couple of people here and there. But I found that, you got to grow as a person first before you build a team. So often I fell into that trap of, hey, delegate and outsource and all this other stuff. And I thought, look, I need to become the master of the business first. So I did have people along the way, but then I had to make those hard conversations to actually remove those people from the business. So now we have like a couple of members hanging out and playing with us now. But majority of the time, hey, it's been me the whole time.
Well done. So
yeah.
cool. And so in that process, when you kicked off the group, just to, for my brain, maybe for everyone listening, when you kicked off the group, it was just you. You'd let go of the people at that stage that you had brought in. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been me. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then through this process, you brought on a few people here and there to help.
Totally, of course, yes. So we've been trialing out some, VAs around that as well. And once again, I figured out I need to master the DM first before I delegate.
Absolutely.
And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I had made in the beginning, and I often see other people making as well. I'm so great at DMs now that I could just teach it in a heartbeat. So now I'm ready just to delegate more to the team member to be facilitating the DMs. But I would say until you're like the master of that task, don't be delegating that as well. And delegate things, and this is what my mentor has taught me too, and Richmond as well, is like delegate your personal admin stuff first, or your personal things that you need to be doing before you delegate the high-end stuff like sales.
Absolutely.
So I don't delegate sales yet because I'm really good at it. So I just want to make sure that we keep getting some more sales before I bring on someone else.
Totally. It's the lifeblood. Sales is the lifeblood of any business. Early last year, we attempted outsourcing sales to a phenomenal agency, like absolutely phenomenal. But we realized this is the lifeblood of us, and we need to keep our finger on the pulse, with this because of the market change continuously. Everyone's DMing. So how do we compete with a marketplace that's completely flooded with DM? Whether someone's in the same space or different, we know, that prospects are getting 10 messages a day, based on, hey, like, how are you? Nice to connect, like all of these messages. How do we shift and stay relevant but different to cut through the noise? And when I say noise, it's just a flooding of DMs.
Yeah.
Friend of mine
I'd love to bring up something too.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I don't facilitate DMs unless they're in my group first. And that works for some people, it doesn't work for others. But for me personally, I don't touch the DM unless they've seen me in the group, because often at times in the group they'll ask for something first, or they've answered a membership entry question, and now it's like, okay, well, you're wanting something, so now I have permission to DM you, and that works so well because people notice.
Totally.
You don't sound salesy at all. I really loved your approach, and that in itself is why they invest in your program, because they cling on to that connection you had with them in the beginning of the sequence.
I love all of your hard rules. I love these rules. Super, super cool. What's your biggest driver of leads within your group right now? Where does it specifically come from? Biggest driver?
Biggest driver would have to be my call to action posts that I put out once a month. So people love free stuff. So we do announce some type of free training or a free challenge. We'll alternate the post, but the sequence on the back end is the same.
Sure.
So the front end will be, hey, I've got this free new training now. I'll be shooting it out in private in the DM, but I'll still have the sequence that would lead to the next step in my sales funnel.
Fantastic.
So regardless of whether they want this training or they want the free challenge or they want something else, it doesn't matter, because now the sequence is you still got to pull them through your funnel.
And what does it take for that person who's raised their hand to say, yep, I want that, Lenita, to then receive the training? So do they receive and you hold them accountable to watch it before booking call? What does the sequence roughly look like there? Yeah,
so it happens quite quickly. Like once they react to the post, I always reply back to the comment, hey, can I shoot you a DM asking for permission? One, you're a good person. Two, it generates social proof in the comments. And then it happens somewhat quite quickly. I'll ask for their, hey, what's your email? Let's shoot it over, get it to them. And then I'll always leave the DM with an open-ended question saying, hey, once you watch that, can you let me know what you found most valuable? So yes, we're holding them accountable. Now, often at times, people don't watch the trainings because they're busy. So we need to be following up and holding them accountable. And then always from there, even if they haven't watched it, I'll always hit them back with, hey, in the meantime, would it be valuable if you check this out? And that would be that next step in the sequence. So often at times it might happen between 3 to 4 days, maybe quicker, maybe more, depending on how active they're on Facebook. But realistically, within the first 2 to 3 days, you can get quite a bit of traction happening in the DM.
And I'm surprised that you send it via email. What's the purpose in that?
In the beginning, I didn't. I just sent it through the DM. But then I thought to myself, I need to be capturing emails for those that haven't given me their emails in the past. So it's a bit of manual work at this stage, but we've been just asking for emails in advance because I know at a later stage, I need to be building that list out even more. So I try to remove them from that sequence and pop them in the DM. Pop them in the email.
So good. So for everyone that's joining a group that's not providing an email address, which doesn't have to be compulsory, you can still pick it up on the back end using exactly what Lenita just shared there. Huge. Golden. All right, we've got some questions here. I'm aware of time. I've got some questions from members in our group. I've got a bit of a quick fire sort of round of this or that type questions. And then I'm also aware that we want to spend some time with our Profitable Group Academy members who are on Zoom because we've got some real stuff that they've got questions that they want to dig into as well. Lots of comments online and in the chat, which is epic to see. I'd like to ask selfishly, joining the Profitable Group Academy, what have been a few highlights for you that have made all the difference? And I'll let you answer that however you like.
Totally. This is an easy question. The strategy, of course, right? We all come in for the strategy, but often at times what we're really craving is community and culture. And that's why we stay. This is the reason why I've continued to stay, because one, you're always leveling up in business and it's pushing me to level up as well. And just the culture, how you deliver things, your personality and your vibe with the strategy, it's such a massive advantage to be a part of. So I would say, strategy number one, but why I've continued to stay here is because you're leveling up consistently with the group and also the culture. How we do business is very unapologetic, very genuine. I've been a part of other mastermind groups where it's like, you just know people are there for the money. And you can just tell. And I know for the culture that I want to build, I've somewhat modeled what Ryan has built and just made it my own with teenagers and parents. And it's really changed the culture of how we run things too. So
good. I love that. As our friend who's in our program, Vince Del Monte, says, level up or level off.
Oh, so true. Yeah, it's to some extent, hey, if I leave this program, I'm going to miss out on all the stuff that Ryan's leveling up in. Because the ego gets in the way. Oh, I don't need this anymore. I can do this on my own. But often at times we need the community and the accountability as well. And I know Ryan's next step, I want to know what he's doing. I want to know what he's going to teach us so I can level up even more. So I really want to commend you on that too, Ryan.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Cool. Let's kick into some sort of quick fire questions and some of the questions from Facebook Group Secrets, all of our group owners there, in no particular order. And it's sort of been answered, but I'll ask it a couple of different ways. Facebook or Clubhouse?
Oh, Facebook, come on. Clubhouse is just another shiny object. Look, Clubhouse is fun, but there's a lot of, often at times people with the loudest mouths don't necessarily know everything. So I have to say Facebook. Now, that's niche specific though, because I know there are more parents hanging out on Facebook. Totally. So I would say go where your prospects and clients are already. But I would say for human connection and long-term relationships, Facebook.
Okay, cool. What about Facebook or Clubhouse, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and the next thing?
I would still stick to Facebook. I think there will always be that next thing. But I would say, Facebook and Facebook group as a combination. There's nothing that's going to come close to that, because you can't even be building. I know there's groups on LinkedIn, but it's still not the same in terms of Facebook groups.
Yeah, we were chatting about those on the call yesterday. Groups or profile?
Oh, yeah, you got to keep, I would say still first and foremost profile. Because in the beginning, especially, your business is going to somewhat be an extension of you. So you need to be showing up somewhat personally and vulnerably. So I would say that's a hard one. I would say both, but personal profile first, because if you really want to go out there and serve your audience, you need to be making sure that you've owned your own story and your own personal identity before you build something great out there.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Organic or paid?
Oh, I love organic. It works. I would say organic, because it forces you to do the manual work. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people like, hey, I'll just go automation and pay ads, but you don't learn. You learn a little more about yourself through organic first.
So good. All right, a couple of quick questions from some of our group owners that published these. From Antoine, what are the key things you did to get your first 100 members, and how long did that take?
Yeah, great question. Key thing was just reaching out. So it's a bit of a hustle, a bit of a just facilitating conversations and getting on as many calls in the beginning. So just really putting myself out there, and through content creation. In terms of content, don't forget to tell people what you have on offer. So I would just repeat myself that I have a group and eventually people just kept joining.
Love it. Bit of broken record stuff there. It's good. Yeah. From Jody, what was the most important thing you needed to do to hit your 100K goal?
I had to get out of my own way in terms of selling high ticket. For me personally, my offer. So it's great to have a Facebook group and a sequence, but if you don't know what you're selling, you're going to lose, and confused prospects never buy. So for me, I had to really focus on my certainty and my high ticket offer in that sequence.
Epic. And your certainty and clarity provides that for the prospect. So that's a beautiful blend. And Kerry asked inside Zoom, what is your offer? What did that look like? Because I know it's changed. So just briefly, what did that look like previously? Was it a do-it-yourself course, $1,000, and now it's high ticket group coach? What does it look like?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was, 3-month one-to-one kind of thing, the whole where we start as coaches, and it was done with you process. Now it's evolved into like a group mastermind, a long-term 12-month support, and really helping them through like ground level up and how to coach and how to build a business from that too. So from what was like a $1,000 product has now evolved into a $5,000 front end group program. And the biggest thing with that is not only like my own client results and my own personal results, but just my certainty in understanding what I'm worth as the trainer and how much value is actually in this program too. So that's kind of how it's evolved from somewhat nothing into a 5K front end.
Great answer. And you talked about, self-worth there and what the worth and value we put on our programs. I'm so excited. Next week, we've got Kylie Ryan coming to teach on self-worth, money mindset, and self-sabotage, which is huge for all of us at every level. I'll speak for everyone there. It's massive. So no matter what we're thinking now, there is always another level above for sure. So great answer there in terms of your offer. What about looking back? This is from Steve. What would you have done to get you here sooner?
Stop giving into the limitations of your clients and your family, friends, and colleagues. So I tried to please everyone in the beginning. I tried to tiptoe around the education market, and I thought to myself, I just got to stop listening to people who have not achieved what I want to build.
Awesome.
So, and that was it, literally. Like, if this person has not made 100K, I'm not going to take advice off them. If this school teacher has never coached a client outside of school, I'm not going to listen to them. And so that was it. I just stopped listening to people who didn't have what I wanted.
Block out the noise.
Yeah.
So good. Well, we're going to kick this call. We're going to keep kicking on with our Profitable Group Academy members for the next little while on Zoom. I just wanted for everybody watching, please in the comments, share and show some love for Lenita, just absolutely opening up the doors to her business, her growth, her journey, and everything that she's been learning and doing, like literal stuff. Go back and watch this video. The bits, the tic tacs inside of this call, there is practical value that you can take away and glean from and use today, literally, to bring in leads, to engage people in the right way, to not come across pushy, to grow your group. There's tons here. So Lenita, thank you so much. And I wanted to say that You have joined our 100K club now, and from our calculations, one of 11 that have crossed this mark in recent times. So well freaking done. I'm so pumped for you.
Thank you so much. It's yeah, super thankful, super thankful.
Really, really cool. And for everyone live that would like to hear about our Profitable Group Academy and maybe be on this call in 3, 6, 9 months time like Lenita is right now, just drop the word academy into the comments wherever you're watching from, and I will personally reach out. I'll send you a personal video from myself like Lenita's been talking about here on this call. I want to hear your story. I want to hear about your business, about the people that you serve, and see how we can help take you to the next level. So comment academy, and I'll personally reach out today. It's Friday here or over the weekend, whether we are rock climbing or we're doing something fun and crazy, I'll be in touch. Everyone on Facebook and around the world, appreciate all of you. Be well and be blessed until our next hot seat call. Thank you for jumping on this, and we will chat and talk very, very soon. Bye for now.